Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Monday. It is the 14th day of August, 2023. Hope you're all safe and healthy today and that you had a good weekend, that your family is safe and healthy, and all of you had a good weekend. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field who, along with the first responders every day, are trying to save lives. And those also that pick up garbage to keep our places clean and disease-free. And those that do the humble work of making deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings on the men and women that are doing the heroic work of trying to save, rescue, and deliver teenagers and children who are the unfortunate victims in America of child molestation and pedophilia. Those also who are the victims that are out here trying to help people that are the victims of prostitution and child prostitution, pornography, child pornography, human trafficking, sex slavery. Double curses on all the perpetrators of these evils. Double curses on all the profiteers of these evils. And double curses on the perverts that create the industry for these evils. Finally, double blessings on the homeless. Nearly 600,000 men, women, and children. Homeless in the United States of America. And millions around the world. Similar or worse conditions. Blessings upon them. For theirs is the kingdom. Today, I was watching yesterday a couple of videos on the Hall of Fame, the class of 2023 Hall of Fame class for the NBA. And I just saw a couple of clips or two. I saw Becky Hammonds and Dwayne Wade's. And it reminded me of what is really a great coach. I know people try to act like only winning championships makes you a great coach. That is disrespectful and ridiculous. When my coaches that I had, what made me fortunate was that they not only taught me about basketball, but they taught me about life. They taught me things. They used basketball, which is just a game, but they used it as an object lesson, as a tool to teach you about life, about leaving everything out there, about once you give your all, being satisfied that you gave your all, whatever the results were. But the key thing was to put everything into it. Took me a long time to learn that, but it was partially because of my basketball coach that I learned that. And you see later, and you can hear when you see Becky Hammond talking about Coach Pop, or you see Dwayne Wade talking about his pops and how he worked him so hard. You know, during the course of time, I hated my basketball coach at times because he rode me so hard. But later on, it taught me things that made me successful in the life, in terms of marriage, in terms of life, in terms of work, education. He helped me a lot, okay? And I can see those attributes in Tom Thibodeau. I kind of always saw them. That's why he was my second choice behind Kenny Atkinson. I mean, most of us in New York wanted Mark Jackson, but I've long given up understanding that Mark Jackson's been blackballed, along with many others that have been blackballed before him for different reasons. He wasn't the first. He wouldn't be the last. Unfortunately, ask Colin Kaepernick about blackball. They do that, okay? But coaches, great coaches, not only win basketball games, sometimes, but they teach you about life, okay? And they put their all. There's a conviction behind them, and you can see that. It comes out sometimes in stubbornness and anger, like with Thibodeau, and yelling, but that's all representative of the conviction about the game and love for the game, okay? So I was looking at, just as an example, and this is pretty much, this doesn't tell the whole story of Thibs, but it gives you an idea of what you got. So I'm looking at the Chicago Bulls 2009-2010 season. Vinny Del Negro was their coach. They went 41-41. They had been struggling. This was Derrick Rose's second year in the league. It was his second year. They were 41-41. They fired Del Negro after that season. They had a net rating of negative 1.7. Defensive rating was 11th out of 30 at 105 points a game. They were 27th in offense, 104 points a game. And so they lost in the first round against the Cleveland Cavaliers that year. So they fired Vinny Del Negro, and they brought in Tom Thibodeau. The next season, Derrick Rose's third year in the league, the net rating was +8. They were number 1 in defensive rating. They were number 11 in offensive rating. They were 62-20. So they went from 41-41 to 62-20. This is Derrick Rose's third year. he had Derrick Rose. Joakim Noah had already been there. This was Joakim Noah's 4th or 5th season. Luol Deng, Carlos Boozer, Keith Bogan. That was his starting 5. He also had Kurt Thomas on that team coming off the bench. And they won 62 games. That was the second season. They went to the conference finals. Lost to the Miami Heat. That was the stacked Miami Heat with Wade, LeBron, and Bosh. That was the stacked Miami Heat team. So they lost in the conference finals. The next season, they finished 50-16. It was a strike-shortened season. There was a strike that year. They played 66 games after they got the settlement underway. They lost in the first round to the Philadelphia 76ers that year. Derrick Rose was then, that's the year he got hurt. So the next season, they didn't have Derrick Rose. It was a regular season. They finished 45-37, and this is where, to me, Thibs does his best work. So they did not have Derrick Rose. They started Joakim Noah, Kirk Heinrich, if you remember him, Richard Hamilton, Luol Deng, and Boozer, and they went 45 and 37. They were only expected to be about 500. But they went 45-37. They went into the second round, lost to the Miami Heat. They won the first round, beating the Brooklyn Nets, and then they lost in the second round to the Miami Heat. Then they go to the next season. This is the 2013-2014 season. They come back and they go 48-34. Again, no Derrick Rose. Net rating +2. They're second in defensive rating in the NBA. Again, they start Joakim Noah, Kirk Heinrich, Mike Dunleavy. They get a rookie named Jimmy. They got a guy named Jimmy Butler who's in his second year, I think. And then you have Carlos Boozer. And now they lost in the first round to the Washington Wizards. Okay. Then the next season, I think is the next season, they go 50-32. They go into the second round, lose to the Cavaliers. Again, Derrick Rose is making his comeback that year. He was never really the same. But that year you had D. Rose, Joakim Noah, Paul Gasol, Mike Dunleavy, and Jimmy Butler again. And so he's battling with what he has, right? And all the time, his teams, they struggle. But here, this particular team, they were ninth, they were 23rd in pace, but they were 11th in defensive rating. They had a plus net rating +3. 11th in offensive rating. I don't understand what people talk about Thibs don't have no imagination. You better look at the stats. The guy's always in the top 15, top 10, even higher in offensive rating. So he knows what he's doing. But he just shows him battling, fighting with what he got. Okay? And of course, he being Tom Thibodeau, like I said, he's stubborn. He got his conviction, and he goes with it. Okay? This is where we at now. So all that time, he had superstar Derrick Rose basically for a season and a half. And the first season he gets superstar Derrick Rose, MVP Derrick Rose, they win 62 games. Okay? And so here we are with the Knicks. And he doesn't have a superstar, but he's got a burgeoning superstar in Jalen Brunson. He's got a team that has his thumbprint on it. Okay? And he is making strides. As you can see, there's a very similar pattern with the Knicks and what he did with his Bulls. Okay, he went to Minnesota. A lot of people are going to bring that up because you want to be negative, but I haven't seen only one coach that I've ever seen, and I really wasn't very conscious of that. I was around it. I watched basketball, but Bill Russell was the only player that was a coach and had executive decision making, and Boston won the championship. Most of the times in the modern NBA, to be a head coach and president of basketball operations and the GM doesn't work. You really need, that's 3 jobs, and you need 3 people to do those jobs, at least 2. So when he went to Minnesota, he bit off more than he can chew, and that's what, to me, contributed to the problems he had in Minnesota. Coming back now to New York, he's a coach. He's not executive. You got the Don up there. He's not the guy that's the GM. He's not the president of basketball operations. He's not the head scout. But he has input into what kind of team they want. And now, of course, as I mentioned many times before, there is now in this marriage a coming together, a confluence where they are now understanding each other. The Knicks management understand what Thibodeau wants. Thibodeau knows that, and they're moving in the positive direction. So when people are talking about firing Thibs or he never won a championship, that's disrespect to the game. It's very difficult to win, period, in the NBA. Very difficult to win. Okay? To win a championship, everything has to go right. And I bring back last season. Just look at last season. The Bucks were favored to take the East. And they were at the top of the East most of last season. Giannis tweaks his back. Game over. Okay? Game over. If you reversed it, if Giannis was completely healthy the whole season, there's no way Miami Heat would have beat them in the first round. Okay? And then you get the Joker. He's healthy all season. They win the chip. With Jamal Murray being healthy. Health is just one thing, but you got to have the ball bounce your way a couple of in order to win an NBA championship. Very difficult to do. Okay? Very difficult to do. Very rare. So to try to judge Thibodeau based on whether he win the championship or not is silly. It's a disrespect to how difficult it is to be in the league and how tough the league is. This is the league. This ain't high school. This ain't junior high school. So you winning games if you can, but you're also affecting lives. If you don't believe Tom Thibodeau doesn't affect lives, you should ask Joakim Noah or Derrick Rose, okay, or Jimmy Butler, who's still playing. Yeah, you can have players that hate him. I cursed out my coach. But at the end, when I look back on it, I know he was just trying to get the most out of me, okay? He was trying, and I wasn't by any means a great player, but because of him pushing me like that, I got MVP in the summer league. And I was even shocked. But it was the way he pushed me, the way he got to make me get the most out of myself, that I understood later how important that was. That's what Tom Thibodeau does. Somebody also quoted, I hope they play hard. I don't understand that. Do you see, no matter what the Knicks record is under Tom Thibodeau, one thing you should be able to see is every night they play hard. They could be down 20 or up 20. They play hard as a team. That's Tom Thibodeau. Okay? So we should be very thankful, in my view, that we have such a coach. You see, like David Fisdale. Listen, everybody that gets the chance to coach in the NBA loves the game. There's no guy that's coaching in the NBA that doesn't love the game passionately. But some guys need to learn what their game is on the NBA level, like how you're approaching the game. What's your strategy? What's your style? What type of players do you want? Guy like Thibodeau didn't figure that out. I mean, not Thibodeau. Guy like Fisdale didn't figure that out right away because this is new. He coached in Miami as an assistant. He coached in Memphis for a little bit, but then he came to the Knicks and it was over his head. It's very difficult. New York is one of the most tough places to coach basketball in the world. Okay, so it was over his head. He didn't have a game plan. He kept changing his lineups. He wasn't committed to rebuilding or trying to win. He just had to learn that. And I think Fisdale is going to eventually learn that. Okay, it's not something that's easy. Thibodeau knows what he wants. He knows the type of players he wants. He knows how he wants them to play. He has a game plan. Okay, you may not like it, but he's convicted. He is passionate about what his game plan is. And I love that. And I love the combination of him with a guy like Leon Rose, the Don, that does his thing and don't care if the media knows or don't. And they together work to make this marriage work. I'm very excited about this season because of the fact that we have what we have. In Tom Thibodeau, we have what we have in terms of the players. Yes, there's weaknesses. Every team has weaknesses. The secret is masking your weaknesses and highlighting your positives. Okay? So for the Knicks, that means masking any shortcomings they may have with Julius Randle or his backup while accentuating the defense, which is why, we're looking forward to an improved defensive effort. So anyway, I wanted to run that by y'all today. An appreciation after watching, Becky Hammond give Popovich his flowers as she should have. Watching Dwayne Wade give his pops his flowers as he should have. Everybody that plays basketball, when you appreciate the game and you've been in it long enough, there's somebody that you appreciate that helped you, that helped develop you along the way. Y'all enjoy your Monday. So